Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. We're going to continue in this podcast our week-long series where we've been previewing contracts, free agency as it pertains to the Philadelphia Eagles. We've already done offense, and we've already done inside linebacker part of the defense. So for this episode, Adam, we go into the most important position, at least in the Eagles' viewpoint, on the defense, and that is the defensive line, interior line, and the edges. And, this is where the money is made, right? Normally. But when we look at this category for the Eagles, we don't see what we normally see, which is usually a lot of guys with big cap numbers. This is sort of a crossroads time for the Eagles as it pertains to their upfront.
Yeah, because they're so young with Carter on a rookie deal, Davis on a rookie deal, Ojomo, Booker, Byron Young, who they claimed off waivers from the Raiders. They're all very cost effective. Cost control is great. So yeah, they're in great shape here. JalenCarter enters year 3 of his 4-year rookie deal. He's got his 5th-year option. We know what happens if he blows it up this year again. He was phenomenal last year. They'll approach him. This is a team, organization, football operations wise. They've done it now for nearly 30 years. When Joe Banner started doing it, they try to go to players early. I don't know why. There's no team that does it like this, by the way. Some teams try to get guys done early. Some guys, they just try to get literally anyone who's a player, they try to get them early. It's just, I don't know why other teams don't do this. Yet another thing we talk about, how the Eagles are above everybody else. This is not cutting edge. Other clubs should be doing this for decades, but they don't. I don't know why.
100%. When's the last time you thought of an Eagles front, like the top 8 guys on the Eagles front line, including DT and edge, and only one of them was making above market money? Ever? Ever?
None of them.
This is the youngest D-line in a while, an edge group in a while.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their base salaries, none of them are going to make over $3.02 million. Carter can't be extended yet. Davis could be, but he obviously needs to play better. Ojomo enters year 3. Booker is in the last year of his deal, his 2-year deal with the Eagles. Byron Young, I mean, they're very, very young. Now it doesn't mean they won't add a veteran, and Gabe Hall is signed a reserve future deal. But the big fish is Milton Williams. He's the guy, man. He's the guy.
We've just gone a long time. I mean, from Trent Cole and BG, who were always making pretty good money, to Fletcher Cox for 12, 13 years, and Javon Hargrave was in there. The Eagles have always had at least 2 to 3 guys making, second or third contract big money, and this is one of the most young Eagles defensive lines. And the fact that they won a Super Bowl with it is even more impressive. So let's get into it. Let's start off with defensive tackle. All right, this is a big, huge position, both literally and figuratively, for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as you mentioned, so many of these guys are young and already under contract. And it always starts with the big guy, Adam, JalenCarter.
Yeah, we'll start at tackle and we'll get to edge. So JalenCarter is his year 3. Coming off his breakout season. He was pretty good as a rookie, by the way. By rookie standards, he was really good. And then he was tremendous this season. The word we got is that from his rookie tape is that there were some times he just clearly was not playing to the design of the play. But this year, way more disciplined with Clint Hurst as defensive line coach. So, he now enters year 3. It's a big year for him. He's on the books for $2.73 million, which is fully guaranteed. Then they've got Jordan Davis, who's in year 4. His 5th-year option decision is due by May 2nd. This year, his base salary is $3.02 million, fully guaranteed. Jordan, by the way, Jordan Davis got better late in the season. We should mention that because people get on us, we're so negative with them. We're not. We just tell the truth. It's all tape-based. We don't give you any opinion that's not tape-based. This is what the tape looks like. You can get mad at us.
You got to be real, right? Yeah. You got to be real about it. He played better, but he also only played 13 snaps per game on average in the playoffs. So that – he played better, but he's also not someone that they consider to be an impact player. When I say impact player, somebody got on me for this in the YouTube comments. Can he make an impact? Sure, at times. Okay, so does, I'm trying to think of at times Quez Watkins would make an impact on a game and catch a big touchdown. No, my point is it doesn't make you an impact player if you do one or 2 splash plays a game. He's not an impact player, but he did make us a good enough impact in the few snaps that he was playing throughout the playoffs. But as you always say, the answers to the test are there. The fact that he's only playing 13 snaps a game shows you where he is in the pecking order.
They just told you what they think. They don't think he's worth playing more than that. It's just the way it is. Right. No, it always, you never have to guess. The snaps tell you what they think. They don't think he's good enough to play more than that. No, the snaps are better by percentage basis. Like instead of having one flash play per game and the rest pedestrian, it's now 2 to 4 good snaps a game. Mm-hmm. So we're getting there. Obviously, in year 4, that's not what you're expecting. You're expecting to be way more advanced, but it is what it is. But he's getting better, and we'll see what year 4 offers for him. He is their highest paid defensive tackle this season in terms of base salary. Moro Ojomo, if they do not sign Milt Williams, would be the in-house candidate to replace him, not Jordan Davis. Moro Ojomo is more of a 3 technique, or 5. Ojomo's explosive as a pass rusher, really is. He's gotten better against the run. He's a more complete player than Davis, believe it or not, as a 7th round pick. Jordan Davis, obviously, when he brings it, when everything is correct with his technique, he's an effective run guy, no doubt about it. But Moro's got more in his body as of this right now. We'll see what Jordan Davis can do, but Moro will make $1.03 million. That's not guaranteed. And Thomas Booker is a really nice story. And his very limited playing time did a good job. He'll make $1.03 million, which is not guaranteed. Former Texans draft pick. Byron Young, who the Eagles want to take a look at. He now is in year 3 of his 4-year rookie deal, $1.265 million, which is not guaranteed. But they got him to the offseason. They want to take a look at him. And as I mentioned, Gabe Hall, who they paid a lot as a practice squad player last season, he signed a reserve/future deal. There's no S on reserve future, by the way. I know people say that, but it's not reserve futures; it's reserve future. Just for the record, that's how it's turned into the league. Just so people know that.
Got it. Future deal.
Correct.
Well, but if you sign 3 of them, are they reserve future deals or not reserve futures deals?
It is reserve future deals, right? But
right.
the RF is reserve future. Now, Gabe Hall is another one where you look at the talent. They call it body beautiful. He's exactly what you want in a 7 technique, in an odd man front. He's like exactly what you want. He's so long, but there was a reason why he wasn't drafted. He just didn't apply himself, but there's talent there. Bringing him back for another offseason. Now, getting a full offseason now. Let's see what happens. There's an opportunity here. They're very young. You just talked about it at the start of this. There's probably no younger defensive tackle group than this one around the National Football League.
I can't imagine one.
Yeah, it's a good thing, but still need more out of Jordan Davis. Let's see what happens. Carter is an absolute superstar, no question about it. Ojomo, really impressive snaps, and then Thomas Booker again, big surprise. We don't know about Byron Young yet. Boy, the Raiders got rid of him very quickly. That's not a good sign, but the guy's got talent. And this is the cool thing about Clint Hurd is now he's got a full off season with these guys. Mm-hmm. But the big fish from Louisiana Tech is Milton Williams. That's the big one.
So before we get into Milton, because I want to talk about the guys that are under contract, I have 2 things I want to run by you. One, normally if the Eagles are 3 years into a contract, a rookie deal with someone, and they don't see them signing that player to an extension, you hear, and we've been told this by people around the league, we've seen it with our own eyes, that player gets bandied out there in the trade market because the Eagles look to get some value in return for a player that they know they're not going to pay. If we're assuming that they are either going to draft a defensive lineman, because they usually do, or add maybe a 1-year veteran or something, but you've got a Jomo as your starter, like you said, alongside JalenCarter, most likely. Do you see a scenario where Jordan Davis could get flipped, sort of like the way Baltimore flipped Timmy Jernigan to the Eagles when they knew that they were going to pay somebody else? Because remember, at this time next year, we're probably having a discussion about JalenCarter about to be on the cusp of being the highest paid defensive tackle in the league, as long as he stays straight and narrow and does exactly what he just did this past year. Because there's no question, if he continues along that line, he will be, when he signs his extension, the highest paid defensive tackle in the league. So do you think the Jordan Davis thing might have some movement this year, or would you expect to hear the Eagles?
Well, let me throw this back at you. What could they possibly get for a guy who barely plays? What kind of value do you have?
Not a third-round pick like the Eagles gave up for Jernigan, but maybe something more conditional, maybe something that involves a flipping of a round where you pick versus where we pick. Like you give us a fourth, and then we also switch. You get the last pick in the fourth round. We get maybe the 16th pick. I don't know, but I'm more sort of philosophizing on this, because this is, if they're not going to sign him to extension, and if he's really not going to play that much, and again, this is on Vic Fangio. He doesn't really rotate you in unless he thinks you deserve to be rotated in. Maybe there's some discussions about what is out there that they could get from a draft compensation standpoint.
I just don't see a market for him, to be honest with you. I just don't see it. He just doesn't play enough.
2 down lineman, right? He's a 1 or 2 down lineman at this point.
You know, he's got. You see a couple of nice pass rushes, but it's not there. Look, they move this along here. Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, he said it draft day what they were expecting out of him, by a certain time. And now we enter year 4. Boy's time passed. I mean, I remember you and I were I think you were with me at the Maxwell Club Awards. Were you there with me when he walked right by us? He won the Maxwell, I think.
Yep.
And he's interesting player because there's a lot in him, but as we also said when Clint Hurt came here, if he can't get out Jordan Davis, it is what it is, and we're not there yet. But to move this along, they've got a lot. They've got a lot of decisions to make. The big one is Milton Williams. Let's move along. Milton Williams. You could make the case from a game-to-game basis through the Super Bowl that he was better than Carter. Of course, Carter more talented, obviously, and more spectacular. But Milton Williams, from a technical standpoint, and I guess we made a short of me saying this for YouTube, he has no weaknesses. He can't control that. He's got short arms, or shorter arms than you'd like. It has not been a factor, by the way. It's not been a factor.
No,
his tape is phenomenal.
Especially against the run. He's been a good run. That's usually where you think that's going to, getting off the block, shedding the big lineman to stop the run. He's been really good against the run.
He's okay. If you want to call it a knock, again, sacks are individual plays. He only had 5. So if he would have had 3 more sacks, that makes him a great football player. Like, that's going to mean he's going to get $5 million a year more. Come on. That's just people overrate sacks. His pressure rate is phenomenal. Just phenomenal. He's just a great player. Now, understand something. He changed agents last summer. The comps for Williams, and we're going to get to them because this is how agents and clubs look at it. They look at guys at his position, defensive tackle. They don't really differentiate when they do these deals. Well, okay, this guy's 7 technique. Is this guy a 9? Is this guy a 3? It's the position. And it starts at the floor. As we know, it's going to be, they're going to look at the Hargrave and the Christian Barmore deal at $21 million a season. That's the floor. No, he's not getting $31.75 million, which Chris Jones gets with the Chiefs because he's played end in a 43 front. By the way, there's tape out. He's definitely done it, and he was underpaid for an amount of years, and the Chiefs finally took care of him. But the floor will be $21 million. What I think is realistic is somewhere around. Now, Dexter Lawrence is a better pass rusher. It's somewhere around 21 or 23 million. Kenny Clark, who's had his deal done a number of times, gets 21.3 million. Lawrence got 22.5. Drum Payne, 22.5. DeForest Buckner got another deal done with the Colts, 23 million. Jeffrey Simmons, 23.5. Quinn Williams, 24. I mean, the thing is, these guys have played at a higher level than Milton. Quinn Williams, once he matured a little bit, became just a great football player and a leader for the Jets. Talking to them about him, he really matured. But then the one that's fascinating, now this one, I didn't realize that it was this much. The guy that Tom Donahoe wanted, Aleem McNeil, $24.25 million. 24.25. Wow.
24.25 is that's a 3 down lineman number who's a guy who's a good player, maybe not 4 or 5, 6 Pro Bowls like your Jones is or your Simmons is. So 24.25, and it's somewhere in that 22 to 24 range feels like where we're headed with Milton Williams. Again, you never know, but that feels like where we're headed. And I want to make a comparison a little bit, Aaron. All right. When the Eagles signed Javon Hargrave in, I forget what year it was. It was 2020. He had spent 4 years with the Steelers, right? And if you remember, at the time they signed him to a very high market deal. He's a free agent. They paid him a lot of money, made him one of the top paid defensive tackles in the league. And at that time, in 4 years with the Steelers, he had only had 14 sacks. Milton Williams in 4 years has 11 and a half and has started far fewer games. So you're right. Stats are not, I'm just using one category. My point is to say, you can look at Milton Williams' trajectory and kind of parallel it to Javon Hargrave, where someone can give him more money, a chance to play a whole lot more, start from the very beginning. And you can see this guy really taking off and being a 3-down, 4-down defensive tackle who plays the 3 technique, rushes the passer, gets a lot of hurries, gets sacks, gets QB hits, because that's what he basically did all year long for the Eagles. So I would tend to think the market's going to be on the high side for him.
Yep. Check this out. Okay, you mentioned because I remember you had the scoop. You said this is a guy that Eagles really like, Javon Hargrave, and when you know what they signed him 5 years ago. Okay, 5 years ago, Javon Hargrave got $13 million a season. 13. Okay, that's 5 years ago.
That was big. Yeah.
Okay.
Was big.
That was a market deal. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. So now you move this along. Hargrave was a nice player. Didn't play the run very well, by the way, and Milton Williams does everything well. He's not getting less than $21 million. It's just not happening. I don't see any way it could happen.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think he's proven it. And wow, you know what's really amazing? It's only 5 years ago he made $13 million. Look at how much the market has changed for the DT in 5 years. Now you got guys making 24, 27, 31. Woo, boy, defensive tackle, baby.
It's way bigger, as you said just now. When I was researching this stuff and getting opinions and seeing how people saw them, Aleem McNeil's interesting because he's a nose tackle, and then he started he became a better pass rusher. He also lost, talking to the Lions, he lost a bunch of weight and got in phenomenal football shape, and he tore his ACL last season, so that's a shame. But he's another guy where you go, wow, he's really good. He's come along. It's just, using your term, sometimes two things can be true, that Milton Williams and Lee McNeil turn out to be really good football players.
Yeah, so this is unbelievable. This parallel is unbelievable. So Aleem got that deal after his third year. So the Lions were smart. They wrapped him up after 3 years, right? His third year, he had 5 sacks and 10 quarterback hits. Milton Williams, in his last year here with the Eagles, just had 5 sacks and 10 quarterback hits exactly. So
really?
Do the math, folks. He's getting paid in that 20-some,
man. Yeah, and it's funny because I saw some guy. I don't know what a fan of you. He saw our feed, our Twitter feed for Inside the Birds. And he goes, I don't even know who this guy is. He goes, Milton Williams, but man, he's really good. Like, I guess he wasn't familiar with him. He goes, wow, this guy's really good. I guess he was watching the Super Bowl or the playoffs. Yeah. And I wanted to say, and I'll say it now, most fans who don't follow the Eagles have no idea who Milton Williams is, but they're going to know because he's getting paid. He's going to have the bag, man. He's going to have a lot of bags.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'll know who his name is. A lot of fans didn't know who Javon Hargrave was when the Eagles signed him.
Right.
I remember
that. Where did he go? South Carolina State? Was it South Carolina State?
Yeah, South Carolina. I think he was there for 1 year with Leonard, maybe? With Shaq Leonard?
I'm not sure.
Does that sound right?
I don't know.
They might have crossed paths because I think that's where Shaq Leonard or Darius Leonard also went to college, if I'm not mistaken. So really interesting stuff there. Oh boy! All right, so that's the issue there. Quagmire confronting the Eagles, and we'll see because a lot of teams will have money to spend, and he's young. That's on his side too. And unlike Bond, he's played this position and he's gotten better every year. So there's not a little bit of a 1 year wonder element at all to him. There's a trajectory and a growth here that you can be encouraged about if you sign him.
By the way, on that, what you just said, he's another guy you're not worried about paying because you know he's a hard worker. He's had a very good character. This is just a great. I don't know what Tom Donahoe didn't like. Okay, Milton Williams did have long arms. Obviously, Tom was not wrong about Aleem McNeil. I mean, he was a great player, but how he was also right about Milton Williams. I just don't know what their difference of opinion was. But as you've said many times, two things actually can be right. It is true.
It is true. That and my favorite Greg Cosell is reasonable people can disagree. I know
Yes.
that seems weird in 2024, but it is true. Reasonable people can disagree. All right. I don't know. We got a lot to shake out before the Eagles get to free agency and the draft, but it sort of feels like first three picks, given the Eagles' history and what they look for in some form or fashion, O-line, D-line, tight end. Like, I feel like that's a good solid bet right now as we record about what the Eagles might be looking at in the draft this year.
Oh, edge though. Edges.
Well,
could be one.
D-line to me is edge or tackle. Yeah, it's one of those.
Right, okay, right. Edge you can make is D tackle. At least they're young, but they have question marks in terms of after Carter. Is Ojomo a full-time player? Davis, can he take another step? He late in the season, can he just play one consistently solid season where you go, wow, we want him around a long time now. He's finally done it. Thomas Booker, can he be their third tackle? You just don't. We don't know anything about Byron Young yet, anyway. But going to the edge rush group, it's like Bryce Huff was a bust. I mean, for 1 year. I mean, he did an interview, which was not real smart around the Super Bowl. I don't know that he'll be here. I'm not saying they're going to cut him and eat his money, but whether they could get someone to take his cut, whether they could pull one of these deals where they eat a lot of the money, they take a brunt of the salary, and they get a draft pick back, whatever the case may be. It's hard to see him back here after what happened. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
He flourished in a wide nine. The Eagles played very little of it, a little bit, but not very much. They have Nolan Smith, who had a breakout season out of the blue after the rough training camp and preseason and starts of the season. He kept coming, man. He never gave up. Great story for Nolan. But our man, 58, wearing Trent Cole's number, Jalen Hunt, he's under contract, and man, he got thrown in there because they had a depth issue after Huff's injury, his wrist surgery, and then BG's injury. He had to play. Give the kid credit. He flashed, man. He kept getting better. This is a scouting term. It leaves you wanting more in a good way. You want to see him take that next step. I'm not saying he's going to start, but he's got to be in the conversation because you can't teach what he has. He's got desired length, athleticism, smarts. This is another one where you go, you want to know why Howie's been nailing the draft the last 4 years? It's stuff like this. It's
really interesting. I would say we don't kill Howie too much on the Jordan Davis thing because the same sort of process of really valuing athletic traits, athletic testing, and believing that that is translatable to the pros. If you're a great athlete, right, and you can be coached whatever you're missing as far as refinement. We know a lot of teams, so the Eagles especially, they might be front and center in prioritizing specific types of athletic testing at certain positions. And it seems like they nailed it on Jalen Hunt. We obviously have to see how it goes, but the trajectory, the arrow is pointing up. And that was similarly what we saw in Jordan Davis. He was a productive player at Georgia. He won national championship there. He started, but B, he was also an unbelievable athlete that they felt with the coaching and the years and refinement, he would learn to use his hands. He would become a pass rusher. So we don't kill it though, because it's the Eagles aren't the only one to feel that way, and that process is going to lead you to hit in other areas, and it certainly did so far. We'll see with Jalen Hunt, but there are other players that the Eagles have hit on because of good athletic testing as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, analytical data, I get it, but. So those three guys are on a contract, and they've got two guys on reserve future deals. O'Shawn Mathis come over from the Rams, and KJ Henry, who was with the Commandos. So right now they're obviously extremely light. They're going to have to add to it. BG and Josh Sweater are up. BG still is not committed to coming back or retiring. Of course, he announced the retirement before the season. He kind of backtracked on it. Now that he gets to go out on top. Why would he come back? But you know what? As you said on one of our last shows, he looks so damn good this season. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, man, I know you want to get out on top, but you've got so much left in the tank. Who the hell knew? And this and the way they use him is perfect. That limited role. He's so good at it. And one thing, they wouldn't be bringing him back because he's a great teammate. We already knew that. They don't bring guys back just because of that. They bring them back because they're good football players. BG's still good at 36 years old. Really good, actually, matter of fact.
Very good. Yeah. I mean, he was their I mean, Josh Sweat, BG. Josh Sweat probably has more numbers, but I think BG was playing as well as Josh Sweat was before he got hurt. I mean, you could make an argument he was their best edge rusher all year long. Could you not? I mean, again, you take into account maybe he's playing fewer snaps or he's fresher, but after Huff got hurt, he was actually playing a decent. He was playing most of that game against the Rams because he had to, and he was dominating that game when he got.
That game against the Rams.
It was a wrecking crew. One-man wrecking.
That first half, it was one of those where I think we were texting. I said, "Are you watching this? This is insane what he's doing. They can't stop him. He turns 37. You understand, folks, and everyone knows who's watching, NFL players retire comparatively to other sports earlier because of the physicality of it. Their bodies wear down. This is not – I've never seen this in my career. I don't know about you, but following this thing – 27, 28 years. I've never seen an edge rusher. Like Von Miller's really slowed down. Like he's 34, 35. BG turns 37 in April. This is not supposed to be happening. He clearly could still play. There's no question about it. He could still play.
He's like the edge rusher version of either Jason Peters or Andrew Whitworth. Like it doesn't matter how old they get. They just play at a bit. You may not get his best every single game, but you're never getting anything lower than his very good baseline effort. He is going to be the most consistent guy. He's going to play the run better than most defensive ends.
Yes, it's the other one.
Yes. And he's going to rush the passer. And I honestly believe he's excelled at the mental part of the game. He has different styles of rush. He has a plan for his rush. He uses his hands really well. He still has a really good bull rush for a guy getting older. So that shows you how strong his hands were. His hands were strong at Michigan. I mean, he was always very good at just pushing guys back and driving guys back. I honestly don't think you're getting that much of a drop off no matter what you do if you re-sign him. I kind of hope he resigns.
He is
just going out on top, but
it's really crazy for all the stuff, all the crap that he dealt with the fans kill him on Twitter. You know, with JPP and Earl Thomas, he outlasted both of them. BG will go in the Eagles Hall of Fame. He won't go in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but my God, man, what a guy and what a football player. This is kind of unprecedented. I have to look it up, see if anyone played to this level as an edge rusher. And the other thing was, by the way, remember when they started standing him up some years ago, that was the question. Could he do it? Because he's under 6'2". He's really not. He's listed 6'2". He's really not. If you stood next to him, he's about 6'1 and a half, 6'1 and a quarter. But
good day.
He's just ridiculous. It's an incredible story, and we'll see. We'll see what he wants to do. I mean, I know the Eagles won't insult him if he decides he wants to play, and obviously they'd want him back. I know they won't insult him. They'll figure out a way to make it work where they treat him with respect, and we'll see what happens. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him back, man. It'd be great.
Yeah, and again, it's not just for nostalgia; it's because he's a really productive player who could really help the team.
Yeah, they're not bringing him back.
They're better with him. Yeah.
It's because he's productive. He's really good. He's still really good. Like he might be one of the best third edge rushers in the National Football League. When he's in his role now, maybe some third guys play a little bit more than he does, but to move this along here, in his role, he's absolutely phenomenal.
All right, back to Huff real quick.
Yeah.
Because of his age, because of the position that he plays, I don't think the Eagles will have a problem finding a taker. I just don't think that there'll be a whole lot of value given in return. You may have to accept some sort of conditional 6 that becomes a 5. You know, Howie's like really good with those. But if they really want to unload him because there's no future for him, I don't think they'll have an issue finding it because teams are looking for young pass rushers all the time. And he did have success in another scheme. And now Salah's in San Francisco, so you never know.
Yeah. True.
I just don't know what to your point. I think you made this point really good. You can unload a guy. It's just what are you getting in return?
Well, you're going to have to eat the money. He's got 16.75.
You have to eat the money. It drains into your.
Yeah, you're going to have to eat a lot of 16.75 million is fully guaranteed. With his fully guaranteed option bonus and veteran minimum base salary, they're going to have to eat a lot of that to move it. But it is what it is. Howie had a great year. He's been on an absolute roll. It's impossible to get every move right. Even the best have gotten picks wrong or decisions wrong. But you understood at the time. But what they probably learned is, and all teams will learn this, if a guy, and we've seen this at receivers sometimes when receivers have been traded, they just don't. when a guy goes to a new scheme, he's got to learn new terminology, and he's got to get together with the coordinator and the quarterback. Their timing's off. They're not on the same page. So that happens. With Huff, it never worked. Boy, we going to training camp. Andrew and I were there. We're like, wow, it's just not. And Vic kept being asked about it, and Vic, is brutally honest. He's not there yet. Whatever.
I remember he was asked in training camp, what do you need to see more from Bryce Huff? And he said something like, well, everything. And then he said, well, he's got to play better. Like, he wasn't mincing words. He was basically saying, I'm not seeing a whole lot.
Yeah. And it never happened. It never clicked. So we'll see what happens. But they're so young. This thing is set up so well to move to close this. With Sweat, by the way, it's been a really good Eagle. He's overcome the bad leg from college. And he's actually been a pretty good football player. He accepted his pay cut, and he flourished this season. Good luck to him. Not rolling it out for him coming back. It will not be easy because he switched agents. And that deal, just look at the comps. You look at it 17 to 18 million a year, maybe a little bit more than that because he's a Super Bowl winner. Really good against the run. He's long. And you just got to figure out kind of how you want to use him. He's much better playing with his hand down. I know he stood up too. He's done that. Although people tell us that he's better playing with his hand down. So we'll see. We'll talk more about him going forward. We'll get a little bit more detail with him, but that's where it's at with them. They're very light at edge. There's no question. They're super light at the edge rush.
Yeah, absolutely. Light and young at edge and in defensive tackle. We'll see what that means for them this offseason. And we will finish off this series on Friday with the cornerbacks and safeties, which is always an interesting conversation, and even more so with the youth that they have there, and then even some veterans. So we'll get into that on the last, and we'll finish it out on Friday. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.